Hey everyone, this is Ryan Wolt. Welcome to the Cheers North County podcast presented by the Coast News Group. Welcome to the show. I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today, Nick Hammond. He is the founder and head distiller at Pacific Coast Spirits in Oceanside, California. The Pacific Coast Spirits Distillery opened almost simultaneously with me taking over the Cheers North County beverage column at the Coast News, and they were on my top 10 list of places to go check out right away. But I wanted to give them some time to get open, work out the kinks, make sure everything was working properly, and then I would show up to drink the drinks and eat the food. But that didn't quite work out the way I planned. Now, a year later, Nick and I got together virtually to talk about how they survived, what makes them unique in the SoCal marketplace, and how this experience has impacted his team. I also found out that you can order a cocktail in a crowler, which sounds pretty great. Before we get to today's show, I want to shout out the Cheers North County podcast sponsor, Casa de Bandini at the Forum in Carlsbad. Honestly, I cannot thank them enough for their support of the show. They make great Mexican food, and they have an incredible selection of tequilas, and you can even order one of their margaritas for takeout. The Coast News and Casa de Bandini have teamed up to give away $50 gift cards for some of their great food and equally delicious drinks. Just follow at Coast News on Instagram, and then like, share, and tag your friends as soon as you see the Casa de Bandini giveaway post in your feed. Let's get right into the interview with Nick. I want to give you a visual, so know that he is rocking an incredible pandemic beard. And you should also know that he is the Nick Hammond of North County, San Diego, not the Nick Hammond who lives in Orlando that recently reached out to me on social media. While you are listening to the show, take a moment to multitask and please head over to the @Cheers North County social media accounts for updates on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or head over to thecoastnews.com and read my latest Cheers North County column. All right, I've got a cocktail, you've got a cocktail, and now it's time for the show. I appreciate you joining me today.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
I should probably say welcome to the Cheers North County podcast. I think that's part of the deal here I'm supposed to do every time.
Well, thank you.
It's really nice to meet you, albeit virtually. And I have a two-part question to kind of get us started. It is probably the most important thing that I can think of to ask you today. One, is it Nick or Nicholas?
Nick's fine.
Nick is fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And two, are you the same Nicholas Hammond who recently contacted me on LinkedIn, whose profile says he lives in Orlando?
No, I do not live in Orlando.
I think that Nicholas Hammond is trading on your name a little bit because we have like 30 local brewery friends in common.
Oh, really?
It seemed odd, and I thought, well, I know all these people that this guy knows, but I don't think it's the same guy.
No, definitely not. Is he in the brewing world or?
Nope. Not at all. Graphic designer. So I'm wondering if maybe people started friending him and he thought, hey, I'm real popular in San Diego.
Orlando. No, I live here in Carlsbad. So,
so since we've established that you're not in Orlando, I was hoping you could give me and the listeners of this show a little background on who you are and how you got started and how did you get to where we are now?
Yeah, so a little background. I've been in the beverage world for a bit now. It's been a passion for a long time, through college, etc. Beer brewing to winemaking. And, the ultimate goal for me was to get to spirit making. And, that's just happened for me in the past 6 years. And it's just become more available, as far as the deregulation of laws that have allowed craft distillers to kind of pop up and to do business, to make our business something that's, achievable. And barriers to entry are dropped, by deregulating old prohibition laws and allowing us to operate much like a brewery would nowadays. So
I was going to say, I don't think people realize how intricate some of those laws are. I was in Pennsylvania before California. There was a local craft distillery that opened while I was there called Wiggle Whiskey. Uh-huh. And I think they spent like 6 years trying to get a permit to open up their distillery in Pittsburgh. So anytime anyone opens anything, I'm always impressed. So I start off at that.
Well, I appreciate it. It's definitely a feat. I sit on the shoulders of many that were before us that have kind of paved that road for us. But it is still a feat even nowadays to get it off the ground, and then also to operate. And especially in the current environment that we're in, it's a challenge for any any hospitality business.
Well, and I want to get to that in a minute, but I was going to say you're not just spirits, you are also food. You have a full restaurant and cocktail bar and the whole deal. Why double down on that challenge? I mean, running a restaurant on its own is a nightmare. Running a distillery, I don't want to say it's a nightmare. I mean, you do it because you love it, but it's a lot. Why double down and do both?
Yeah, it is a lot. We're very unique in San Diego to have this model. I think unique as a whole in California. There's a few of us that are doing it. And I think what the reasoning being is that, yes, we could create a brand, we can be in an industrial park, and then we'd have to do a lot of marketing. We'd have to have a field team. We'd have to have sales reps. So there's a lot of cost that goes with that as well. For us, while we operate a restaurant, we operate the cocktail bar, we have full control of our product. We control that messaging on how that product is conveyed to customers. We also get a lot of feedback, in our day and age, creating as many spirits as we do. We get feedback directly from our customers, and we're able to tailor our spirits accordingly to make sure that we're creating something that, the masses are going to like, but also, something that we like, So, we could sit in a bubble and make product in a park somewhere else and then, launch it out there and put it on the shelves, but it's not necessarily going to move. So for us, I think it's an interesting opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity with our team in the kitchen to have synergy of food and beverage. And that's something that we really are exploring, and I think that's, for us, that's a differentiator. And it's not often you go to a restaurant where they make everything that's on the cocktail menu in-house, so that's kind of fun.
No, that is rare. You kind of just brought it up a minute ago, but COVID is affecting everyone in a million different ways. Hospitality, we see in the news every day. There's a whole bunch of different things on that. What I'm really interested in is how you guys have fared over the past year and what you've kind of learned, and then also how has it impacted your team? I would imagine that it creates a little bit more dependence on each other, even if it is a smaller team. And maybe kind of like hey, we're going through this sort of camaraderie, but I'm guessing here. I don't really know.
Yeah, I think, for us, it was a great challenge. We opened our doors at the end of the year in 19. We only operated for roughly 20 days in 2019. So we had 2 months, 2 solid months, and then March hit, and permanent, as far as we were concerned, closure. And so we've invested all this time. We've put years into building the property and putting all the equipment in. We built this place by hand with a small team, and then operate for 2 years or 2 months, and then your mandated closure. It's it'll wear on you. It'll mentally hit the team, and it's been challenging. We've had a lot of attrition with our team, and I think everyone has seen that. You go through layoffs, for survival, and then you try to rehire and try to regrow and find opportunity and pivot. And I think, the strong survive, and it kind of shows, who people, the real side of people. You definitely depend on people. You lean on them. And, the team, we've got a team now that's very strong, and, we depend on each other. And I think we value each other even more now because we've survived, what we've been through. So.
You mentioned it can be taxing and wearying. Have you found moments where you can kind of take a breath? Because you're making decisions now, not just as an owner and as a community, but as a community member and as someone who is, before I was worrying about paying bills and providing a great product, but now there's this extra pandemic layer of like, well, I also want to keep people safe and provide them opportunities, for your employees, but I also don't want to put them at risk.
Absolutely. You feel responsibility as an employer, right? I mean, that was part of, half the reason why to take this avenue as well is to create jobs. We're a value add manufacturing company by the definition of a distiller, but we also have, 25 to 30 employees varying throughout this whole process, throughout the whole last year. And we are responsible for them. We're responsible for them, their families, the livelihood of all of us. And so, we make tough decisions to open or close or whatever that be, or to pivot the business and, to create new products to survive. And that's out of necessity because, we didn't go through all this work to just open our doors for 2 months and close the door and walk away. I mean, we're here for a long time. So it's a matter of survival.
Being there for a long time is part of that is is becoming part of the fabric of that community. And hospitality in general is about creating community, really.
Yep.
If it's not for the quality of the product, they still got to enjoy coming there for a reason. And it's usually the people. It's great when you can do both. You guys have kind of something that I personally find to be really appealing, which is you do a bunch of different clubs: coin club, bottle club, barrel club. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. What goes into kind of creating that sort of program for the community? And then take it another step further and say, at some point we're going to have to talk about spirits as well, but take it a step further and say, as you're becoming, you're a full year now into being a business in Oceanside, how do you feel that you fit there? Do you, have you found yourself able to give back or do philanthropic things throughout the year? I mean, I've been watching your Instagram feeds and your socials, so I'm kind of leading a question here a little bit, but
sure.
But I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, bottom line, we wouldn't be here without our community. Our community's been there to hold us up through all of this as well. And we've been there throughout the entire COVID process, helping our community. We early on pivoted to making hand sanitizer as a necessity, but also to provide a safe opportunity for our community that couldn't find sanitizer when it was most needed. When all of this was kind of an unknown, we didn't know what the virus was. Everyone was sanitizing everything.
And I'm going to interrupt and just say, how wild was that we were at a point where we couldn't get hand sanitizer?
It's insane. When the big companies get mandated to supply only restaurant or hospital, hotels or hospitals and first responders. I guess you lean to the next in line that had the opportunity and the tools to do it. And it wasn't us that came up with it. It was our guilds. It was it was from the top down. We got advisement directly from our national guilds, trying to help us survive as well, looking out for us. And the FDA stepped in. We jumped on it. We were producing within the first week. We already had high proof here, utilizing grape spirit for our vodka. And, it was very expensive hand sanitizer at the beginning, but, we've done what we can. We've sourced new product. We've gone through that. We've found some of the efficiencies, and now, we're going to continue to offer it, at a nice cost price that helps our community. And I think we'll always keep it as long as FDA allows us to make an ode to kind of like the times that we went through. It saved us. And, in an extension of that, our community, we started this out. I have a fond piece of my heart that's about giving back and philanthropic. And we started this as, every month we were going to find a nonprofit to work with. I mean, we're partnered with 1% for Planet. So we're already giving, 1% of all of our revenues back to donation. And part of that can be accounted for local donations. Local, 501(c)(3)s that we can find and help. And we find that we have a great venue here. We have a pretty consistent following and customer base that, we can help build awareness for local nonprofits. We can give back as well. And so we do something called the Give Back Cocktail. And we donate back an equal amount of 50% of those proceeds back to a nonprofit that we partner with for that month. This month, we're partnering with Humanity Showers, which is a great nonprofit here in Oceanside, and they provide showers and cleanliness to those who are in need and that are homeless and want to find opportunity to get jobs. And we're partnering with Jordan, who has just been. I mean, if you get a chance to talk to him, absolutely inspiring on the project that he's doing, and we're happy to help in any way possible. So. Yes, we are giving back to our community, and our community is there giving back to us, helping us survive this as well.
I would venture that Humanity Showers program, it also gives more than just showers. It's a little bit of dignity as well.
It is. It's dignity. It's guys that want to go in for an interview and want to present themselves well, and it gives them an opportunity to do that. And he's got some stories that are amazing. People that have been there, have come through the showers, that have now gotten jobs, that are no longer homeless, that have recovered from their bad dealt hand, and it's very inspiring.
Let's talk about spirits. you guys make a ton of different stuff. And you said something a minute ago that made me wonder this. Was that always the plan, or was part of that because of diversifying this year?
Yeah, so it was part of the plan. It's not our long-term plan from a distribution standpoint. Again, we operate a restaurant and a full cocktail bar. So if we're not making the spirit, we're pouring something else. And so it makes sense for us to make all the spirits that we find are a need for our cocktail program. And we'll continue to add some and take some away. Our great passion is in American single malt California bourbons, and recently really expanding into the gin side of things. That's where we like to play. But we create an agave spirit. We're on the Pacific Coast. We bring nectar over from Jalisco, Mexico, 100% Blue Weber agave, and we make an agave spirit. Can't call it tequila, but we we have margaritas on our menu, and this is San Diego, so what's a bar without a margarita on the menu, right?
Well, you just said gin. I actually had my first gin drink in over 20 years a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And this has been a big year for me as a drinker, because I've had more time to really focus on it, being at home all the time. And most of the people I've met through this show and some other shows in the distilling arena have forced me to try new things. So I started drinking tequila again, and I like to think of myself as a simple guy. So it's generally, it was always either whiskey or vodka and an ice cube, end of drink. Very easy.
Sure.
Now all of a sudden we've got a full bar here in the house, and we're mixing drinks and doing things. And I think the pandemic did a positive thing that we're taking out of it is an appreciation really for the food that we eat and the beverages that we're drinking.
Sure.
It's less about, I don't want to say it's less about the socializing. I can't wait to get back to that part.
Yeah. It's going to be a heyday, I'm sure, after this whole thing.
But it's also made me really appreciate, those things that we're doing at home.
I think you're exactly that. You're exactly right. People care about where their food is coming from. People care about what's in their beverage, and or at least is starting to care a little more. And I think that's where having the restaurant and the synergy that we have in food and beverage allows us. We get to care about how that's put together. We have chicken on our menu, but it's not any chicken. It's pasture raised chicken. And it's from Murrieta and Warner Springs. It's right here. It's local as we can get. It's amazing. They're smaller birds, but these are, there's no hormones, there's no pesticides in the ground. It's insane how well fed these birds are, and I think it's just being mindful about what's going back into our own body. And that goes right back into the spirits, is that, I personally take care in everything that goes into these spirits. I know, for our bourbons, we know exactly where our corn's coming from. We don't use feed corn from another region. We use it right here in California, and it's not feed corn. It's actually food grade corn. It's very high end. It's non-GMO, sometimes organic. There's a lot more flavor that comes out of it, and it's really fun to play with some of these grains. And I think as you try our spirits, I think you'll see how unique we are compared. We're not trying to make a Jim Beam whiskey or anything, a Jack Daniels. Those guys do what they do, and they do it great. We're not trying to be that. We're trying to be unique to what we're making here. It's just like craft breweries. There's a million IPAs out there, but everyone's different. I think that's where we get to really explore the craft. As we say here, it's adventures in the craft, and I think that's San Diego. Through and through. From every brewer to every distiller to some of the winemakers that are here as well. It's it's an adventure for us. And recently, in the last 2 years, gin has become one of my kind of fun avenues to explore. And we have 2 gins now. We launched with our California dry gin. It's very juniper forward, nice little lavender balance, kind of floral. But it's something that we cut very neat, and the heart's cut when we make it. You could put it on the rocks and sip it. It's not going to be in your face, pungent, kind of like, man, I got to drown this thing in tonic. Or, we try to make our spirits so you can drink them neat. And then if you want to explore that, into a cocktail, then so be it,
I know that you guys have an extensive cocktail menu. One thing that I really appreciate about North County in particular, and I say this having run a bar in San Diego proper, is I think the best cocktail makers are in North County.
That's good to know.
And that's not to insult anyone, because there's great people down south as
Yeah,
well, but there's kind of a focused talent of people up here in North County that really are passionate about making good cocktails.
absolutely. Yeah, there are, and I think we're lucky to have the customer base that seeks that out as well. It provides an avenue for the talented bartenders that are in our area, and honestly, they're liquid chefs. As far as we're concerned, what they can put together. I'm not a bartender by any means. I like making the spirits, and I get a lot of feedback from our bartenders. Hey, can you make the spirit balance this way a little bit more, so it's a little more presented for the cocktail, and that's exactly why we have a bar, is to get feedback from customers, from bartenders, to tone our, to narrow in our spirits to where we need them to be. But yeah, I agree with you. There's some great talent up here.
Well, we are in the early part of February, and we are just starting to see the magical vaccine arrive. Have you even tried to project what the rest of this year will be for you guys?
I would hope it was all green pastures and we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm hopeful for that. That's how we're proceeding to kind of grow. We're continuing to grow with the demand that, we're seeing a lot of folks now been cooped up for, 6 to 8 months, and they're over it. They want to come out. And so it's great to see on our end. Again, we're trying to, we take measures in our restaurant to stay as safe as possible, to socially distance, to make sure we're cleaning and sanitizing. We just actually moved just now back to plates because, just to keep our staff safe as well. I'm very conscious of that. We're not trying to put anyone in harm's way, but we also, want to make sure that we've created jobs, and we keep those jobs, and we keep people employed. Costs have gone up for food because of all this to-go materials that we've had to, add on to it. But, that's the biz right now. But I'm hopeful this is the last move, that we go back to plates now and we stay in plates. Food looks way better on plates than it does in to-go containers.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that the timing of everything is nice. We'll have some nice warm weather coming in the coming months. I'm sure we got a handful of wet days ahead of us, which is hard to manage when you're only dining outside. So I'm hopeful that eventually here we go 25% inside again, and it gives us that balance to be able to accommodate folks that want to come out.
I do the local COVID news update every Wednesday, and this week it was the third week in a row that we've had dropping numbers, and I can say, having done them every Wednesday for a year, that's the first time that's happened.
Yeah, well, that's good news.
So it was funny. I thought it was funny to myself how much that actually affected me when I was writing the show, and I thought, wow, that's really something that matters to me. I care about that. I mean, not just for the numbers, but it's a trend line that I can hang on to for another day or two.
Absolutely.
I feel like there's a lot of things that we could talk about. We could probably do 2 or 5 or 10 shows over the course of a year. But
sure.
Before we get to the end today, you guys do a lot of stuff. We were just talking a little bit about sustainability, and you mentioned to-go, which I think we spent years getting away from, like, all to go and all plastic and all everything, and then all of a sudden we were forced into it. And I know sustainability in a distillery and a restaurant is much bigger than just takeout plates. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that, and just especially with small margins, which you just referenced. What kind of efforts do you guys take or prioritize at PCS in a world that we're not worried about COVID as much?
Yeah, so we're a Surfrider licensed restaurant. Which means you don't have any single-use plastic. I'll tell you, that was probably one of the biggest challenges going through all of this, is that, when we first started going to go, we had everything was compostable. Everything was made of sugar cane. It was, we felt good about it. It's been a challenge because suppliers can't keep up with it. You're forced to order what you can order, as long, and what we've done is we've kept it as recyclable and as renewable as possible when it comes to go. But back into our own production, we built our whole distillery to be very sustainable. We recycle all of our water in-house. We have a big 3,000-gallon water tank that's inside, and we use a lot of water in the distilling process, because in distilling you're going through vapor change and phase changing. So you're boiling off water, you're vaporizing the ethanol off the mash, and then you're recondensing that and back into a liquid to recapture it. And you have to use a lot of water to cool that vapor back down. And instead of it going down the drain, we're reclaiming it, we're recapturing the heat internally, and then we're actually re-chilling it, refiltering it, and using it again on the loop. So that also goes into future products. So it goes through a sedimentary filter, carbon filter, and then UV to get treated. We have to be very mindful, I think, being in this industry, not to be wasteful. We have to be intentional about it. And, that's something that's, core, one of our pillars, in our business is being sustainable. And I think we do that very well. Even the grain goes to local farms. We've got a new rancher out outside of Ramona and Julian there that we're now taking our grain to, and they're feeding steers and cow. And, they're actually being very, forthright and thoughtful about trying to find a way to have a USDA slaughterhouse back in San Diego again, so that restaurants down here could then bring those meats right back, And so we're playing a big part in that. And I think, it's a long game for us, as far as sustainability and our impact. But, hopefully this COVID was more of a blip, and, we have to be very intentional about how we go forward.
I think intention is a great way to think about it. I have gone through a bunch of different eating choices in my life, and ultimately what I care about is that I know where my food came from. The older I get, the more that matters. There was certainly a point in my life where it was white bread, butter, and sugar, and I was fine with that, through college. But what did I not ask you? What do you want people to know about what you guys are doing or who you are?
I think, just as a whole, as a craft distillery, I think people don't really know what we do. And I think as a whole, our license allows us to create spirits in-house. You can enjoy those here on premise through our restaurant and our bar, but they can actually buy bottles in retail as well. You can buy up to 3 bottles a day per person with our California license. So that's kind of fun. We create cocktail kits that you can take home.
3 bottles of one thing or 3 bottles total?
Total.
Yeah.
Total. So it's 3 bottles. So anything at the 750 milliliters. So we're actually something pretty fun that we're one of the first distilleries in California to do is utilize the crowler that you would know from the beer industry. We're actually using the 25.4 ounce crowler, which is the old Foster's beer can. And that's actually equal to 750 milliliters. We actually do 9 draft cocktails at the bar, and we can fill those on draft into a crowler. We can it, lid it, seal it, and you can leave with 3 of those, a little party starter for the weekend. Each is 5 cocktails in 1 can, so you can serve those out.
That's cool.
And those will be something that we can do after this whole COVID and cocktails to go away, because they're ready to drinks. And it's really our R&D program towards getting our cocktails in a can.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to, if you're ordering dinner to take out and you can just grab a cocktail and not have to worry about either making it at home or having the right ingredients. I find a lot of times I want to make a cocktail, but I'm always missing that one thing.
Yeah, it's challenging. Like you'll have a cocktail in a bar, and you'll be like, "Oh, I want to go home and make that," right? But how many ingredients do you have to buy? You have to buy all the the sugars, to make the simple syrups. You've got to get the liqueurs, and by the time you're done, you spend over $100 and some trying to make one cocktail.
Yeah, or you're trying to make your own simple syrup, and you're just annoyed with yourself, and you've ruined a pan.
Yeah, so we're trying to take some of that out and make it fun. We're making a cocktail kit for Valentine's Day where we make the simple syrup. We provide you with the garnish and the juice, and then you can buy a bottle that goes with that and go home and make 10 cocktails at home for Valentine's Day and have a little bit of fun around it without having to worry about getting the measurements correct. And it comes with the instructions and recipe, but it's gonna be fun.
So hypothetically speaking, because I don't know if I'm allowed to say I'm going to do it or not, but if I were going to do that, I'm sure that I am. I don't think there's any rules in podcasting.
No.
How do I order that? Do I go on your website? Do I call? What's the best way? What's the best thing for you?
Yeah, so you can just go right onto our website. It's takeout and delivery. You go on there and you can order it for pickup or curbside, or you can just come into the distillery, enjoy a meal and a taster, and take them to go.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Last chance. Anything I missed?
I think you mentioned it earlier, but our clubs are pretty fun. So check out our clubs on our website. We got a really rad one called the Coin Club. If you're local, it's there's so many benefits with it. You get percentages off your food and beverage every time you visit. You get our a free cocktail every month that comes out. It's called the Local Handshake. And so this Local Handshake this month is our tableside G&T build, which is pretty fun. Yeah, it's a fun aspect. You get percentages off bottles and merchandise. So it's well worth it if you're an aficionado and visit us often.
Very cool. Well, Nick, it's been a real pleasure just chatting with you, and I'm sure that we'll do it again.
Likewise. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. That's today's show, everyone. I want to thank Nick Hammond for being here. It has been a long first year for Pacific Coast Spirits, but after surviving COVID-19, I have trouble imagining that there will be a future challenge they cannot survive. Get online and go to paccoastspirits.com to learn more about the PCS clubs and to get discounts and join a local spirits community. You can find links to that in this show's notes. Or order some food and a few bottles of craft spirits or a crowler filled with fine cocktails to go right now. And currently, outdoor dining is open. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cheers North County podcast. We will be back in a few weeks with the team from San Diego's Climate Action Campaign. That's all for this episode. Thank you for listening and joining me for another happy hour. Don't forget to read the Cheers North County column on thecoastnews.com and to follow @CoastNews on Instagram so you can win one of those Casa de Bandini gift cards and get yourself some fine food and drink. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a rating and review, preferably if you've enjoyed the show. It really helps people find a local show like this one. This episode of the Cheers North County podcast was produced and recorded by me, Ryan Wolt. Jordan Ingram is my editor-in-chief. The Coast News associate publisher is Chris Kidd, and the publisher is Jim Kidd. Thank you for listening, everyone. Be well, stay healthy and sane, and keep living the dream. Cheers, everyone.